Australia is mostly a fabulous triumph. At last count, the super savings pot was overflowing with more than $4 trillion. That's a lot of zeros and guarantees prosperous retirements for millions of hard-working people. But superannuation here has also become a victim of its success. It's now so valuable, like moths to a flame, it's attracting the unscrupulous, hell-bent on getting their hands on the riches. Tonight, Adam Hegarty investigates a rogue super scheme affecting 12,000 Australians who stand to not only lose $1 billion plus, but also any hope for happy futures.
How much did you lose?
340,000.
And that's everything.
For us, a lot of money.
For anyone, that's a lot of money. Peter, what you've lost is staggering. How much money is it exactly?
1.4 million was my last balance.
Are you left with anything for retirement?
No, absolute zip.
How can my super money just go? How can it disappear?
How much did you lose?
547,000. For me, it's my whole life.
The stories are as heartbreaking as the scale is breathtaking. 12,000 hard-working Australians who did everything right preparing for their retirements, only to be left feeling scammed out of their superannuation savings.
It's a disgrace.
It happened because they were convinced to invest their money into two linked but now collapsed super funds. First Guardian, run by David Anderson, and Shield, managed by Paul Kyoto.
I'm very, very angry. There has to be something that can be done.
All up, losses could top $1 billion. Right now there are 12,000 Australians who don't have a cent to their savings for their retirement. Will they get anything close to the money back?
I don't want to give investors no hope because I think there is some hope and we are working hard to work out what we can recover. But I don't want to give investors false hope either.
The news couldn't be worse. But the losses incurred by investors in the First Guardian and Shield funds are a reminder to everyone with a superannuation account. The pool of super money is so enormous, the sharks are circling, and they can't wait to exploit the fact that many of us need as much help as we can get when it comes to managing our retirement funds.
What we are seeing increasingly are bad actors that seem to have a financial motivation or interest in depriving people of those investments.
Sarah Cord, as the Deputy Chair of corporate watchdog ASIC, has the difficult task of not just investigating the frightening extent of the alleged superannuation rorts, but also trying to reassure all of us that our retirement savings are usually in safe hands.
This situation that we're dealing with here, I think, is a, wake-up call for all of us into the risks that are involved with people making decisions about where their superannuation lies.
People don't want to hear that, do they? Because it's supposed to be the safest investment we make. We need to make super contributions.
And that's why these arrangements or this conduct, Adam, is different in our view and so serious.
You feel like you've been robbed. You feel like the system has robbed you.
You couldn't find someone more unfairly targeted than Susie Jack. She just doesn't deserve what she's suffered.
As COVID hit, we've lost our jobs. Okay, it's happened. Then I was diagnosed with cancer. Okay, I battled through. That was okay. Passed through that. Then my mum got very sick. She recently passed away. And now this super scheme that has happened. It's just a nightmare.
How Susie got caught up in the rogue operation is devastating. Not only because she's lost all her super, but because it could have happened to anyone. It began when she lost her long-standing catering job at Qantas.
So I worked for Qantas for 28 years. Absolutely loved Qantas.
Why did you have to leave Qantas?
I got a redundancy because of COVID. There was no more jobs for us. So we had to take a redundancy and move on.
Susie was fortunate to find work elsewhere, but with a new employer, the now 52-year-old had to leave the airline's industry-only super fund. So, like many, she needed help.
I was looking to compare my super to go to another super fund, and somebody rang me, some advisor rang me to talk me through the super fund.
What advice did they give you? Do you remember?
Well, they compared different supers, but they assured me that the First Guardian is a very good super. They said I would have more growth than compared to my other super fund.
Susie admits she doesn't fully understand super, but she felt confident the advice she was receiving about the First Guardian Fund was sound, and so rolled more than $500,000 into it.
It was wonderful people I'm dealing with.
So they really sold it to you. They won you over.
Thinking about it now, yes. I think they did. There was no red flags. I thought it was legit. I thought it was a genuine super.
Industrial scale misconduct.
Industrial scale.
And that's how big it is. There's layers and layers of people involved in this.
Investigative journalist Sarah Dankert has spent months picking apart the complexities of the First Guardian and Shield funds. But she says, in effect, the scheme was actually quite simple. David Anderson and Paul Kyoto enlisted others to cold call prospective clients.
Someone would call you, it would be a salesperson, and then they would bring in a financial planner on the call live. And it would be a three-way call with you, the financial planner, a person registered, again, under a license to act in your best interests. And instead, allegedly, everyone was getting paid from the top to the bottom to pull you into that particular fund.
Sounds like a racket.
Allegedly, yes.
The allegation is that the fast-talking marketers and financial advisors were paid lucrative kickbacks when they convinced investors to sign up with First Guardian and Shield. But people like Susie Jack were in for an awful surprise. Last month, when she happened to look in the spam folder of her email, she found a letter from her fund declaring it was in liquidation.
I read it like a few times and I didn't understand it. And I seen the word liquidation, and then I forward that email to my son, and I asked my son, can you please explain this to me? Because I really don't understand what's happening here.
What was his reaction once you told him what was in that email?
I was like, Mum, you've lost all your money. Your money's gone, Mum. Do you understand?
So that when it hit home?
Yes, it sure did. It was the biggest shock of my life.
Losing $500,000 doesn't bear thinking about. It's no comfort at all, but she wasn't the only one.
Just thinking how future was, because we'd worked so hard to have that future. And we've had to change it quite substantially.
You can't just earn that money back.
I don't think we'll ever see it back.
You can understand Annette and Simon Luck's despair.
Do the big planned trip across the Nullarbor and take our time and see all the sights as we go across.
Like Susie Jack, their post-work wish to live happily ever after is all but over.
The retirement plan was to do the big lap, which is the dream of merely a lot of retirees, do the big lap of Australia for a couple of years.
How quickly it's all changed. Now, with no retirement savings, Simon and Annette can't even afford to chip in for their daughter's wedding.
Don't have anything to give.
That's got to be about the worst thing for a parent.
It's embarrassing as a father, not being able to give their kids something, just anything. It's embarrassing.
It's a gut-wrenching situation.
The only hope for the thousands of victims to get back even a pittance of their retirement savings lies with ASIC and the First Guardian and Shield liquidators to seize and sell assets owned by David Anderson and Paul Kyoto.
We have got orders restraining people from leaving the country. We have executed multiple search warrants on individuals and on business premises.
Coming up, living the high life. Is this where the money went?
How they can ruin thousands of people's lives and have no conscience about it whatsoever, it would appear, is beyond me.
Peter Spencer Franks is no fool. And yet, he's one of, if not the, worst hit by the collapse of the First Guardian and Shield super funds.
I've lost sleep at night. Will I be able to afford to keep my car? Will I be able to afford to keep my house? Will I be able to provide for my family? You know, do I have to work until I die?
They're difficult questions to contemplate for someone who thought they'd done everything right. After a well-paid career in the oil and gas industry, Peter was on the cusp of retiring at 60. He had a healthy $1.4 million sitting in his superannuation fund, but that's now completely vanished. That's your life's work, right? Gone just like that. I mean, what does that do to a person?
Well, I'm trying to keep calm and carry on, but, you know, I'm doing whatever I can, contacting the government, ringing MPs' offices, sending emails. It just doesn't seem to do any good.
With little response from authorities, much of Peter's anger is directed towards the men who ran First Guardian and Shield, David Anderson and Paul Kyoto.
How they can ruin thousands of people's lives. The whole thing is a disgrace. The whole of my future has been stolen.
Of course, Peter's not alone. There are 12,000 other probable victims who've lost their super nest eggs. And seeing this, David Anderson's opulent $9 million mansion in Melbourne must make all of them furious. And that's because ASIC is investigating whether Anderson used his client's money to make mortgage repayments. The corporate watchdog is also probing other purchases, business and property developments here and offshore, fast cars, even high-end watches. Susie Jack says it's not fair. A $9 million mansion in Melbourne, a Lamborghini linked to the funds company, investment in a brewery, restaurants, property, and about $240 million just sent overseas. If that's proven to be true, what do you say to these people?
They're thieves. Absolutely thieves. How could someone do that to you? Like, how can a human being do that to people?
What did they promise you?
They promised me that my retirement will be nice and easy. I have got a son. I mean, like, what does he inherit from me?
Is there anything?
I don't think there will be. I have to look after myself now with my retirement money gone. I don't know.
Unfortunately, because of the scale and because of the complexity, that is going to take some time to work through.
Sarah Court's team at ASIC has the difficult task of sifting through the First Guardian and Shield mess. She says assets linked to both funds have been frozen in the hopes some of the money can be recovered, but warns tracking down all the money is next to impossible.
We have obtained restraint orders over the assets of many of the individuals involved here. So we've not just seized the business assets, but we have exercised warrants and obtained court orders freezing those assets that you are talking about.
Which is fantastic work, but it doesn't necessarily give them all their money back, does it?
No, but I am trying to be clear that that kind of unjust gain of those assets, has not been allowed to continue.
While the investigation's ongoing, neither David Anderson nor Paul Kyoto has been charged with anything. They both deny wrongdoing. But further frustrating this case, it now appears as if they're blaming each other.
We asked Paul Kyoto for an interview, but he refused. He did, however, provide a statement claiming he'd been unfairly portrayed in this saga and that he, in fact, had been assisting authorities in their investigations. As for David Anderson, well, he's well and truly gone to ground.
It is going to take time to get to the bottom of it, but we are throwing everything that we can at it, with at the forefront of our mind getting monies back to the extent that we can for these investors.
Alongside ASIC's scrutiny of the First Guardian and Shield funds, Deputy Chair Sarah Cord's other concern is convincing all of us the country's superannuation scheme, once held in the highest regard, is still safe, and that there aren't more super funds in similar trouble.
What strikes me is the systemic nature of it, though. So these aren't your typical shady underworld figures that you're targeting. These are accredited expert professionals. How do we trust a system that enabled that?
Yeah. So I think you're right to ask the question about the breadth of what we are looking at here and the potential systemic nature of what's involved. So there is a deep web of issues to get to the bottom of, and that's what we're doing.
It's going to go on for years. Years and years and years.
Journalist Sarah Dankert has traced where she and ASIC believes much of people's superannuation has ended up. And, sadly for the fund's alleged victims, she says investigators have a long, tough job ahead of them.
The Corporate Cop did do a lot of interviews and a lot of research for a long time, but it didn't quite bust it open fast enough. So it started investigating Kyoto in September 2023.
2023?
Yeah, a long time ago. 18 months after his scheme started, already people in the finance world were saying, this guy's getting really big really quickly.
Any action is bound to be cold comfort for the 12,000 Australians tonight without any super, or any real hope of salvaging the retirement they'd all worked so hard for.
I've worked all my life for this. I don't want to spend my life on benefits, living off social payouts and charity. I was looking at starting transition to retirement, but now I can't. Because, I'm through no fault of my own.
I can't sleep at night. I think about the future. Like, what future do I have? I don't know. It's just, I feel like I'm in a limbo land. I actually thought you could never lose money in the super fund. I trusted the system.
I bet you don't anymore.
No, I don't trust. I don't trust the system anymore.
Coming up.